Had my week off last week. We back in the building, my guy. What are we doing? How we looking? How we cooking?
Oh man, I'm feeling amazing. Look, I would love to
Look
sit
how you
here.
brought me in, man.
I
Like
know.
bro. Is there anything you can't do? Like, come on, man. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to be clear on this. First and foremost, if you follow Steele and myself, then you know we are two rabid pro wrestling fans
Yes.
and have been lifelong. But we are both just beyond amped for Mania weekend. I wake up this morning, and when I tell you life is about, sometimes just waking up in the right mood with the right space and the right people provide you the right energy. Still had a text waiting for me as soon as I woke up, and it was this video. And when I tell you, I could not have been more ready to start today. Let's cook. Let's talk Cowboys. Let's talk Mania. Let's talk about all the good things.
Let's cook, baby. Let's cook. I'm fired up, and I want to get right into Mania, but we're gonna save that for the end. It's only right to do so. Let's kind of take care of some house cleaning first. And I kind of talked about this the other day in regard to Ezekiel Elliott. But for me, Pat, the national media seems to be recycling the same damn reports or narratives surrounding contract talks in Dallas, right? Mainly Dak Prescott's, but all types of contract talks, including Dak and CeeDee Lamb, who was in the mix for an extension. Your boots on the ground, just like you were for Ezekiel Elliott. And you usually drop these things prior to the national media. Can you, once and for all, give a boots on the ground update on these contract negotiations?
As I was trying to enjoy my mental break last week, I couldn't help but kind of peek in and see, if there were any misleadings going on as far as Cowboys news, because inevitably there will be. And I was not surprised when I saw that. That's exactly what occurred. Yeah. So a couple of outlets, a couple of national guys, and then one local guy. When you put breaking in front of something, that doesn't necessarily mean anything is breaking. That doesn't mean anything's new. The fact of the matter is, from the same information that I reported, I want to say on Dak 2 weeks ago, it was Zeke 3 weeks ago, when I reported that the mutual interest was there between Zeke and the Cowboys, and not to close the door on that possibility, and that there's, some open dialogue there. Nothing new there. There's still open dialogue with Zeke, and there's still very much a possibility. Money on the table. I think that it would be, if they were to make that move, whether it be Ezekiel Elliott or J.K. Dobbins, I don't think they're interested in making that move until after the draft and they see how things shake out there. But it's still very much on the table. When it comes to Dak Prescott, my update from 2 weeks ago was that, of course, Dak reworked his contract a little bit, and it's different from a restructure because they would not have needed his permission for a restructure, but It was a rework, and they freed up several million more dollars for them to not use whatsoever, but we'll get to that later. But the contract negotiations are ongoing. So the update is that there is no new update. Things are still moving along. Dak is not pressed to get the deal done right now. The Cowboys are not pressed to get the deal done right now. I think that they should be, but the fact is they're not. So things are still kind of flowing slowly in that direction, right? So that's the latest with Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. I know there was some wording out there that says, okay, this clears the path, quote unquote, for Dak to become a free agent in 2025. As we have this conversation, neither side wants that to occur. So no update, no change there. Both sides really want to get the deal done. They're just simply not pressed to do it at this exact moment. When it comes to CeeDee Lamb, the Cowboys and CeeDee's representation have been in talks for nearly a year now. It's ramping up. It is ramping up. But that being said, there's nothing imminent at the moment. Again, this is not a situation where the Cowboys, as we have this conversation, what's today's date? April 5th? Yep. They're not pressed on April 5th. Now, I want everyone to keep in mind, though, look at what happened last summer, right? The Cowboys are getting pretty well versed in holding off and then getting their deals done when? July, training camp. Talk about Trevon Diggs, talk about reworking Zach Martin, talk about Donovan Wilson, Malik Hooker. So I believe that training camp will be a good marker. Terrence Steele as well. I believe training camp will be a great marker this offseason to see how many and which deals they can get done. So that's the latest on those three, if you count Ezekiel Elliott. Still movement in the positive direction for CeeDee Lamb, still moving in the positive direction for Dak Prescott, still moving in a positive direction for potentially adding Ezekiel Elliott back to the fold. But for those that are looking at the possible reunion with Zeke, and saying to themselves, oh, man, what are we doing here? Keep in mind, that would not be the sole move. It would be Zeke tandemed with a draft pick. So that could be a third-round pick, or if they were able to get another third-round pick, maybe trade back and get a fourth-round pick, which we'll talk about here in a bit, then you could be looking at it in that aspect. So it would be Zeke and a draft pick plus Rico Dowdle. So that's the latest what's going on with the contracts.
Yeah, Patrik "No-C" Walker of DallasCowboys.com joining us, as always, every week. There's more discourse going around social media, and right now it's surrounding one Tyler Smith. Right? What should the Cowboys do? Because he is multiple. He's played left tackle. I think he did a good job his rookie year. He's played left guard last year, all pro. McCarthy comes out. He says he's a guard right now. Stephen Jones comes out. He says, well, don't rule out tackle. So we're going to play a little game. And we're going to start off with this or that. Tyler Smith, left tackle for you or left guard?
The choice is yours. You can get with this or you can get with that.
Oh, man, you cut that short. I started to rock. For me, and I am on the record, I'm standing on this hill, and I'm dying on this hill, for lack of a better way to say it. I've got the receipts to show that this is the hill I'm on. Tyler Smith is your left guard. He is your future potential Hall of Fame left guard, and that's where I want him to play. That's why I wanted Tyron Smith to remain in the building to create that bridge for the Cowboys to select an offensive tackle with a top pick, to then put that person into play for 2025 and maybe at points in 2024 when inevitably Tyron Smith was to miss time. That was going to give you the best package to the left side of center as humanly possible. Now, does that mean that Tyler Smith cannot play left tackle? Of course it would be disingenuous to say that. I think he would still be a Pro Bowl left tackle. But there's a difference between being a Pro Bowl left tackle, which is damn good, by the way, and a potential Larry Allen at left guard. So I want to see him put in the position where he can succeed the most and his ceiling could be pushed the highest, and that's going to be left guard for me. So for me, even without Tyron Smith, you're still going to go offensive tackle high in the draft. And from there, you just got to hope that guy maybe can come in and immediately contribute as opposed to having a bridge to try to wait until 2025 or spots in 2024 to kind of get his feet wet.
Am I being messy if I say it sounds like the coaches know what they want to do with them, but the front office is using or leveraging his versatility? Because Steven says one thing and McCarthy says, oh, no, he's a guard now. And then Steven says, well, we don't know what he's going to be.
No, I think that's exactly right. I think when you look at it from a front office aspect, the front office would have liked to have Tyron Smith back 100%. That being said, they didn't want to pay what the Jets were willing to pay, even with those incentives structured in that deal. They simply didn't want to pay it. I don't necessarily agree with not giving an incentive-laden deal, because that's exactly what I would have given him. That's what I said beforehand I would have given him, is a deal that, rewards him greatly for staying on the field the entire season, knowing full well that the likelihood of him doing so is minimal. So you probably weren't going to pay that max anyway, but here we are. But you lose Tyron Smith, and if you're the front office, now you have to do damage control. You just lost a future first ballot Hall of Fame left tackle who's coming off of a Pro Bowl caliber or a Pro Bowl season, and he's resurgent. You've unlocked him in the late part of his career by not, practicing him and figuring out that formula, and then he goes elsewhere, and now you're stuck with this huge void. And the only thing that you can reasonably say to yourself if you're the front office is, well, that sucks, but at least we know what Tyler Smith looks like at left tackle, and let's see how this shakes out. But if you're Mike McCarthy and you're the coaching staff, you're like, yeah, that's not what we want to do. We wanted to keep Tyron Smith. You didn't keep Tyron Smith, and we want you to figure out how to get us our future left tackle in the draft, preferably first round, and unless it's, Jackson Powers Johnson. And if you do that, then that allows us, the coaching staff, to keep the player in a position where his ceiling is the highest, which is the left guard.
And look, they signed Truma, the other day. But let's get this on record here. Your boots on the ground, you're insider. Does Truma, and I know it doesn't, but just so this is on record, you're not hearing anything down there that says, hey, Truma is insurance in case XYZ doesn't happen, or is that the case?
Stop it.
I just want to get on record. That's all. I just want to get somebody down there on the inside on record.
So here we are. The view on re-adding or re-signing Truma on a second one-year deal is that he's serving as insurance right now, right? He's insurance against what happens or does not happen in the draft as far as how the board falls, and we'll see how it goes. He's insurance against injury going into training camp when you look at the depth pieces, because we're still looking to figure out, where's Awesome Richards in this equation, because he earned 0 snaps last season as a rookie 5th-round pick who allowed no sacks at North Carolina. So it's like, where was Awesome, even though you had all these injuries and you had this carousel of talent that you had to cycle in and out, not once did you want to cycle Richards in, and that's concerning. So where's Richards in his development? Is he going to be anywhere near ready in year 2? You don't know yet. So, hey, Truma Edoga. How's the board going to fall? You don't know yet. So, Truma Edoga. It's a veteran minimum deal. It's pennies on the dollar. It's a 1-year deal. It's very cuttable this offseason if the board falls the way they want in the draft, and a guy like Awesome Richards and a guy like Matt Willetsko, whose shoulders have been failing him, but when they don't fail him, he shows a lot of promise. So guys like Willetsko and Richards can really show improve as possible swing guys. In addition to, you get your offensive tackle potentially in the 1st round of this draft, then the Truma Edoga thing is not a thing at all. It's insurance. It doesn't preclude them from doing anything at all in the draft. It is 100%, just make sure that we have our backs covered. That's basically what that is. Now, as far as the analyst point of view, I think you had better options, and maybe you still have better options than Truma Edoga. That's not to say I think Edoga doesn't belong in the league, because I've seen him be effective in coming in spurts as a guard, not so much as a left tackle. Please, let's never do that again. But I could see him being a viable backup piece at left guard. But in that same breath, Bass beat him out, right? So Hoffman beat him out. So these are all conversations that happen in the building. But the fact that a Bass can come in, and he's a gamer, the fact that Hoffman can come in and kind of beat you out as the veteran, I say all of that to say anyone assuming that re-signing Truma Edoga changes anything whatsoever as far as the approach to the remainder of the offseason, you've absolutely lost your mind.
Let's stay there on the draft. Knowing what we know going into this draft and coming out of free agency, where Cowboys don't do much or did little in free agency, they still got a good amount of needs in this draft. And there's some conversation of, hey, do we stay put and take our guy? Do we trade back and grab more picks? So this or that for you, Pat. You staying put at 24, drafting BPA per need is what I call it, BPA per need. Or are you trading back through hell or high water to pick up a couple more picks because you ain't got a 4th rounder?
And this is where it gets kind of fun but nerve-wracking at the same time, because I'm going into the draft feeling like I got to get more picks. I got to get more picks. I only have, 7? And none of those are in the 4th round because I gave up my 4th-round pick for Trey Lance. I got to figure out a way to get back in that 4th round, or the back end of the 3rd round. But I need that pick in that particular spectrum. So unless the player that is available approaching 24 is a CeeDee Lamb or someone where you absolutely can't deny taking this person regardless of what your need is, unless it's that type of situation, which is, possible, but it's not probable. Outside of that, I'm trading back. I'm trading back. Now, I would ideally like to trade back and still remain on day one for a couple reasons. Number one, first and foremost, I want 5 years of control of this pick, of my first pick. I want 5 years of control. And you lose that once you hit pick number 33. You lose a whole year with that 5th-year option going out the window. But also, I believe that anyone that might be available at 24, reasonably speaking, not a random generational guy that shouldn't be there, but reasonably speaking, anyone there at 24 should probably still be there at 30, right, hypothetically speaking. So if you move back from 24 into the 30s, 30, 31, maybe talk to the Chiefs about 32, you still get that 5th year of control, but you also get enough collateral. Maybe you regain and you flip some things and you regain that 4th-round pick or maybe another 3rd-round pick. But I think you have to do that. And I don't think that the Cowboys are looking to trade down just once in this draft. I would expect that they're looking to trade down maybe twice in this draft. Go in and get more picks because your free agents, this is your free agency. This is your free agency if you're the Cowboys. Outside of Eric Kendricks coming from outside of the building, and then you had a key retention in like Jordan Lewis and your special teams guy and C.J. Goodwin. Outside of those, you've not done anything. So you have to have, and I don't say this with hyperbole, you have to have literally one of the best drafts in franchise history. And that's only going to happen if you get as many picks as possible to help better the odds of achieving that mission.
Well, the Cowboys should have 2 more trade partners because, the Bills got rid of Diggs and the Chiefs wide receiver could be suspended, or I don't know what they're going to do with him. So those are 2 teams right there, 31 and 28 or something like that, 27, where they can trade down, pick up extra picks. And I'd imagine those dudes could be looking at wide receiver to jump up and get their guy.
Yeah, a perfect example being the Chiefs, especially on the heels and in the wake of the Rashee Rice news. I mean, the Chiefs are a team that were already in dire straits at wide receiver before this news. And if this news ends up with Rashee Rice serving a suspension of any kind, then of course that applies that much more pressure on a team like the Chiefs to say, hey, we don't want to sit here at the back end of the first round. We have, there's a receiver sitting there at, when the Cowboys go on the clock at 24, hey, you want to do a pick swap and we send some additional collateral your way so we can get our guy? Cowboys think to themselves, hey, well, who are we looking to take first? If this guy's free falling and we think he's going to be there 7 or 8 picks later, okay, let's make that move. And I think that would be a fantastic thing to do. So, yeah, to your point, you're going to have some teams that are picking behind the Cowboys that are going to want to look to move up to where the Cowboys are, because the Chiefs, I mean, they're not going to try to jump into the top 15 for a wide receiver. That's way too expensive, right? So, but it's more feasible for them to call a team like the Cowboys or one of those other teams in the mid to late 20s and try to negotiate a deal. So if you're the Cowboys, you're in prime position right now, barring a generational guy staring you in the face. You're in prime position right now to move back and get some picks.
One more in regards to NFL things here. If you can get one realistic free agent prior to the draft to bring in for the Cowboys, and I'm heavy on realistic, right? Because a lot of fans, they'll go crazy with big names. But one realistic free agent, who would it be?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, there's a lot of them out
there. You know what? I think I
got one.
We're past the point. Well, I think we're past the point where an outside free agent acquisition would be more impactful than the guy that I'm about to name, Stephon Gilmore. I think that, and I would have loved to see more action from outside of the building as far as bringing guys in. But I think now we're at the point where if you look at what Stephon Gilmore brings to the table and what he was able to do for the Cowboys last year, especially after losing Trayvon Diggs, and also his mentorship and also his dog mentality playing through a torn labrum in the playoffs, et cetera, if you can get Stephon Gilmore back, that would be more valuable, more impactful for what Mike Zimmer is trying to do with only a 1-year contract, by the way, Mike Zimmer has, than any of the other available free agents on the market right now. Now, that's, again, not to say that there are not, some defensive tackle help that you can go out and get, but, I mean, you've lost out most of those guys, and now you lost out on Jonathan Hankins. But when I look at the full table of available free agents, Stephon Gilmore is that blinking light for me, and I think it's paramount that the Cowboys get him back in the building, especially because history shows that it's going to take some time for Trayvon Diggs to be back to prime form off of that torn ACL. So even with the retention of Jordan Lewis, even with Deron Bland playing the way he's playing, you don't know yet when Trayvon Diggs becomes the first-team All-Pro again. And also, last year, you traded for Stephon Gilmore to play with Diggs, but also as insurance against injury, because flashback to 2022 when you had Anthony Brown and Jordan Lewis injured, and Kelvin Joseph and Deshaun Wright were getting taken to the woodshed by Aaron Rodgers and Trevor Lawrence. You need Stephon Gilmore back in the building. You don't know yet what you have with Eric Scott, Deshaun Wright, Izzy Mukuamu. Those 2 guys are on a contract year, and they've not necessarily shown you that they can go long stretches of season and play at a high level. So for me, it's Gilmore, and then you start looking back outside the building.
That's a fantastic one. So I'm not going to use one for in the building. I'm going to go outside the building. I'm going to go with an ageless wonder at the position that you brought up, defensive tackle, because best believe they're just as scarce there with only really 2 guys and Carl Davis, who's a journeyman. Calais Campbell. I know
I hear you.
I know he's old, y'all. I get it. But the dude did come off another good year last year. He's got 13 sacks in the last 2 seasons and over 55 stops. He still can play. And if you want to get a veteran leader in that line, because you don't have Hankins anymore, get Calais Campbell in there,
Right.
help mentor these guys. Oh, and by the way, on the field, he still can ball for you. And it's a 1-year deal too as well. So you got your veteran guy in Kendricks in the second level. Get yourself a veteran defensive tackle / 5-tech if you decide to play a little different. And I think Campbell could come in here and be a great bridge player for whether it be another draft pick or for any of these young guys that they decide to bring on.
Listen, I smell what you're cooking. I mentioned Calais Campbell in open market, in my open market series to start free agency or before free agency launched. I looked at the defensive tackle position and I said, hey, I would love to retain Jonathan Hankins, but if Jonathan Hankins departs, who are my several options? And I had guys like Nico Autry, obviously, Eric Armstead, things like that. But Calais Campbell was absolutely one of the guys that I named for the reasons you just said. Number one, ageless wonder, and he's proving that time and again. You're not seeing this massive fall off from him on a year-to-year or week-to-week basis. I would love to be able to bring a guy like Calais in because while it seems as if the Cowboys are ready to throw the keys to Mozzie Smith, and really they should be off the strength of the fact that he's your former first-round pick from last year. So you got to throw him out there and find out what you got. But at the same time, we talked about insurance earlier. You need insurance against if he takes some more time to progress or if he struggles or whatever the case may be. Calais Campbell, it would be that type of insurance. And like you mentioned, mentoring as well. Jonathan Hankins was great in mentoring younger guys, so is Calais Campbell. And it goes without saying that he's also the consummate professional, great community guy as well, all-around great locker room guy, beloved around the league. So I'm right there with you. I think Calais Campbell is still one of the, I don't want to say premier, but one of the better and one of the best, is the best way to put it, one of the best still available defensive tackles that you can add. Likely won't do it until after the draft because, again, you want to see how the board shakes out. But he's certainly one of the mercenaries that I feel like you can add, and not necessarily June because of his age, but he feels like more of a training camp signing, and maybe even a late training camp signing because guys his age, whether they're performing, well, even if they're still performing at a high level, they tend to want to come in closer to the regular season than at the beginning of training camp because they don't typically want to go through all the rigmarole that they have in their NFL career. But, yeah, Campbell, I like that a lot.
He'd be a dream signing for me. Speaking of dreams, you ready to learn the words of kingdom, buddy? Get ready.
Listen.
I'm just saying.
Will Cody finish the story? I put my prediction out there yesterday. I'm not going to.
I'm a Roman guy.
I want people to go.
But I'm down for Cody finishing this story. But you need to go right for the WWE. I saw some of your ideas on Twitter, man. We need to hashtag that. Get Pat in the WWE right in the room, fam.
Tell him to slide in the DMs. That's a dream job. This is covering the Cowboys is my 1A. That's got to be my 1B. That's another thing that ever since I was a young boy I wanted to do. So hey, WWE, if you're listening, Hunter, holler at the kid, man. Let me in. What's that gift where the guy's outside? And he's like, let me in. That's me or not. Let me in. I got ideas. But this Mania is going to go crazy.
Man.
And what I was thinking about last night about it for our fellow wrestling fans that are listening is we're doing all of this talking rightfully so about the two main events on night 1, night 2. Rightfully so. But I was falling asleep last night, and I'm like, man, what about the LA Knight versus AJ Styles and how they've gone like full 1990s with that build-up and Knight showing up at
the crib,
AJ's house and
Brian
you know what I'm
Pillman,
saying,
Stone
hiding
Cold
the crowd with the hoodie, Right, I love it. Rock versus Stone Cold, and then you got Rhea and Becky. I half of me says no way Rhea drops this belt. The other half says I think Becky takes it off her. And it goes so, on and on from there. So, I mean, this Mania is about to be crazy. And we talk about Stone Cold. Will we hear the glass break to help Cody finish the story? Hulk Hogan dropped a social media clip kind of trolling The Rock, saying how Cody's his boy. And guess whose streak that Roman would break if he retains the belt? Hogan. So will Hogan interfere to make sure his streak doesn't get snatched away, man. Ladies and gentlemen, I could not be more amped. Let's go.
Speaking of Hogan, I wanted to ask you what match would you think is going to steal the show? Because every WrestleMania, there's always a match that's not the main event that ends up stealing the show. And the poster child for that, for me, and this is more of a historical, I wasn't around, I wasn't outside, but I know my history, is Savage versus Steamboat Mania 3. Right, Hogan and Andre the Giant main evented that. Right, it was an all-time build-up, all-time match because that was passing the torch.
He slammed Andre,
right?
Yeah.
But Savage and Steamboat stole the show. So what match? And this is a hell of a card, by the way. At WrestleMania 40, do you think will steal the show?
Ooh, you know what? You know who's been routinely stealing some of these PLEs over the past couple of years or so is the women's division. You look at Elimination Chamber, and even to the fact that Nia Jax. I mean, we didn't really necessarily want to see her come back because she's just not a good wrestler, but she's even leveled up to the point where her main event against Rhea in Australia, that was a massively entertaining match. So I'm going to go with Rhea versus Becky, and I think the sleeper here will be Jay versus Jimmy, because if they can pull off Jay versus Jimmy in the way they did Owen versus Brett, then that could be a legendary match, especially considering it's all tied to the bloodline and the main event for day one and the main event for day two. So, yeah, but quick answer, I'm going Rhea versus Becky. I think that has a chance to steal the show.
I went back and forth with mine because usually these ladder matches go crazy at Mania, man. I remember 2016, the Intercontinental Championship match was nuts. Now we're gonna have a 6-pack tag team title match, ladder match that has a chance. Now the participants aren't the high flyers. All of them are high flyers, so that might not be as good as it used to be. But I'm thinking the triple threat match for the U.S. title: Logan Paul, Kevin Owens, and Randy Orton. Logan Paul has yet to put out a bad match. This dude is fantastic, and I think they could steal this show, bro.
I hate to admit it, but you're right. That being said, I think it's less of a triple threat match and more of a, Logan versus the tag team duo of Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. I think KO and Randy, they're going to go at it. And Randy, the beautiful part of it is Randy is so unpredictable.
Yeah, I think he's going to turn. I think he turns.
That's what I'm saying. He'll work with KO most of the match to help eliminate Logan as far as physically and beat him down and tenderize him and make it easy to pin. And then the moment KO is about to go in and get that pin, RKO out of nowhere, Randy takes the belt, which I believe is the rightful thing to do because, hey, don't we all hear voices in our head? Let's go.
I think alternate universe there, KO costs Randy the belt, and then after the match, they're both in the ring like, oh, man, it's all right. It's okay. We're going to be fine. And then KO's like, no, sir. Or Randy's like, no, sir. RKO, and he beats his ass, and he turns heel again.
Nowhere.
Yeah. But anyway.
Hey, well, you can't spell RKO without KO. So, let's keep an eye on that. And then the Drew versus Seth. This is going to be packed, dude.
This
weekend is loaded. I said on Twitter, I got Drew taking the belt off Seth because I think Seth is ready for a break, and they finally, the WWE finally figured out the perfect recipe for Drew McIntyre. I can't get enough of Drew McIntyre. This time last year, I was sick of Drew because he was all over the place. They finally got the perfect recipe. I would love to see Drew get the belt. Will Damian Priest cash in finally and try to take that off him? I don't know, but if Drew takes this belt off of Seth, the Drew versus CM Punk rivalry. It's set for SummerSlam. It's set, and it's going to go crazy.
I think the belt needs to be on the heel.
Ladies and gentlemen, just if you love wrestling, ride with us this weekend because I'm certainly going to be live tweeting. And if you don't love wrestling, ride with us anyway because we're going to make you love it. So just sit back, shut up, and enjoy the ride that Hunter is taking you on.
I love it. Patrik "No-C" Walker on this installment of The Scientific Method. Appreciate you, Pat. We'll be talking to you throughout this weekend on day one and day two of night one, night two of WrestleMania, big dog.
Yes, sir. Talk to you soon.